They panned on her. She's perfectly fine.
Yep.
And then it goes 3-0 down. They pan back on her. She's just bawling.
It's ridiculous, though, right?
Cheers.
She's probably seen, like, what, maybe 2 to 3 losses in her lifetime supporting Madrid. I thought that was disgusting.
I heard that's only their first loss in the group stages since 2012.
Cry me a fucking river.
Going into the match, they had not lost in 5 years in the group stage of the Champions League.
And let's face it, they've won the freaking trophy 3 times in that time span.
Yeah. Okay, so my second part of this is a request. Down the pub, I asked Simon, do you think that this victory against Real Madrid midweek was bigger than the Anderlecht victory? And you said, no, we won a trophy versus Anderlecht. It's a whole different ballgame. But, man, you had an interesting personal story that I would love for you to share.
You're kidding, right?
No, I'm not.
Well, and I know so many of our friends of the show who were at the game. I wasn't. I was living in Bournemouth at the time and bit dirt poor, to be honest. And I was in a rented bungalow with a bunch of my mates. And for some reason, I was the only one at home for the second leg. And there was no telly. I had no money. I don't even know if it was on at the pub, and that didn't even seem like an option to me. So I went to the local Curry's, bought a small color TV on the Never Never, took it home, hooked it up, had a 6-pack of beer, watched the game on my own, and probably cried a little at the end and consumed all the beers. And there was no one there to share it with. But it was so awesome. And that's obviously my memory of arguably one of Tottenham's finest glory nights. And just to hear the stories from Pete and from Vass and from Rob, who were there that night, it was probably the most electric night, other than our first European home game, the Gornik Zabrajdi game in 61, when we won 8-1 after being 4-2 down after the first leg. So it's a funky story, but it's my story of what I remember as one of our best European nights, because of course we won it at the end, and it was the way we won it, and I wish I had been there, and it's a shame I wasn't.
Yeah, I thought that was just an awesome story. I wanted to hear it again and let everyone else again. It blows me away, the things that people go, the extent that people go through to enjoy Spurs, watch Spurs.
And I think you've got to put it in perspective, because TVs are like nothing these days. That TV in 1984 was like 260 quid, which is like $400. And it was tiny. It wasn't big. And it had a convex screen and buttons probably, but, I'm sure the picture quality wasn't good, but I didn't know no one knew any better back then. And it was just a marvelous night. In fact, I remember that now. That's a memory that'll stay with me forever. It was great.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, I'm going to make 2 very unpopular comments tonight, or comments that at least people will certainly find plenty of reason to disagree with me. One is
I'm gonna glass you.
That win against Madrid, to me, is every bit as important as a Carabao Cup. That's my first unpopular. I know everybody's clamoring for silverware and this, that, and the other, but I think within the context of what we're really trying to do as a club, beating Madrid, having a chance to win a group, certainly guaranteeing ourselves round of 16, to me, where we are, what we're trying to do, is more important than a Carabao Cup.
Real quick.
That's my first one. I'll do the other one later.
Before you go on to your second point, I don't disagree with you, because think about this same cup last year. Manchester United beat Southampton. Does anybody in the world really care about that?
No, and to add to that, Tim, what would you draw more strength from as a club? Winning a Carabao Cup or beating drawing Madrid there and trouncing them at home?
The latter. The latter, because you talk about like people on the world stage need to take notice of what's building at Tottenham, what the project Mauricio Pochettino is putting forth here, and they're not going to realize that if you go against Southampton in the Carabao Cup and win it. Nobody outside of England is really going to give a shit about that, but you go against Real Madrid and you play them over 2 legs, you draw at the Bernabeu, and then you come back to home and you play them off the pitch 3-1. I mean, that's what people are really going to notice.
Yep, I totally agree. That's
so I don't think it's an opinion that's not popular. I agree with you on that one.
I agree with you as well because no. Listen, ever since
there's a voice
of
dissent. You'll get to me.
Ever since we heard the West Ham, went through the West Ham loss, it was just a pity party, pissed off, social media meltdown. And since we beat Real Madrid 3-1, I've not heard a peep about that match.
Yeah, totally agree.
But I think Simon has a little bit different perspective.
No. I wasn't going to say one way or the other that, should we still be in the Carabao Cup? Well, of course, I'd love to be in the Carabao Cup, and I'd love to win something. Again, I said it last week.
We would have been drawn against Arsenal, by the way.
Well, we would have at their place, and of course, the irony is, guess where we get to go next? But Pochettino is his fourth year. I think Berkey went 4 years without winning anything. Then he won 3 in 4 seasons. So that's all I've got to say about this. We must win trophies. If it's not this season, it has to be next season. End of. I don't care what they are.
Yeah.
We need to win, or we will be that Newcastle team that everyone suddenly remembers that they should have forgotten about.
Yeah, and Sam, we had this discussion last week, and I know you weren't able to join us, but we talked about the aspirations of the club, right, and winning the league, and God, making a run in Champions League, and God forbid winning it. But the Carabao Cup loss, you have to start, if you're Pochettino's Spurs, you have to start somewhere. Look at Mourinho. Even if it's a community shield, it's something you get to hold up and jump up and down on a stage with fireworks going off and all that shit. You start somewhere, and then you build towards whatever it is that you're aiming for. So to Simon's point, I still agree with that. I would like to win something. To Tim's point last week, he's not seen in his lifetime or since his fandom, and me neither, that we've won anything in terms of silverware or trophies or a first place position. Do you agree or disagree with that?
10 years next February, just for perspective.
Well, I think for me, I just don't think that cup doesn't mean much to me. It's not like the League Cup that the Chairs and I grew up watching. It's not even close. And I think the pursuit of it really can be to the detriment of a much, much bigger prize.
But was it a pursuit?
This bid against West Ham?
Yeah.
No, I think our eyes were on Madrid, and I think that I think
you got to look at Poch's face in the second half. He was pissed.
And if it was not a pursuit,
I agree.
Would you not played, would you
can't
not
grade two
played
things
like
here.
some of these younger kids?
No, I think what Pochettino was upset about was, look, it doesn't matter whether whatever his 11 players are, he wants the absolute best out of them. And that's what Pochettino was angry about. It was piss poor. It doesn't matter whether you're in the Carabao Cup or the Premier League or the Champions League. When you're blowing a 2-0 lead, that's terrible.
I like how you keep calling it the Carabao Cup. I know Christmas is coming, mate, but calm your excitement. It's Carabao.
Oh, fuck it. It's a useless fucking
Asian energy drink.
Carabao, Carabao, Cara fucking less.
I mean, I think you can look at it from two different perspectives. As supporters, we want silverware. It matters to us, but to the outside footballing world and to players we want to attract to this club, what do you think is going to matter more? You go and win the Carabao Cup and you may play a shitty team in the final, or you go head-to-head against Real Madrid home and away and you take away the points from them.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
So I get both sides of it. I mean, as a supporter, especially,
and I think we need to table this till later in the season to see where we are, to kind of gain some perspective of, all right, let's say, and again, Ken and I were talking, it's great that we're seeing these awesome videos of the new stadium and pictures of the chairs, but, we also thought, are we really going to be in that stadium? But let's say, hypothetically, we're in the stadium, August, September, we're kicking off, and do we have any silverware that's attracted the players we want for that watershed moment season that we should have, Or is that going to be the season that does it? And, where do we finish in the league? I know those are all questions that we won't even have a clue how to answer until probably the spring. But I think the point is we're talking about C trophies, B trophies, A trophies right now versus where we should be in the future. And I think we've got to win something big, because otherwise a win against Madrid on a Wednesday night in the group stages is inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. As much as the loss to West Ham is.
No, look, I agree with you. We need to win, no doubt about it, and preferably something big. But if the idea is that what you're trying to foster and develop here is a winning mentality, you don't bottle 2-0 leads, irrespective of what match you're in. But if you're going to look at me and what endeavor is going to foster a winning championship mentality, it's beating Madrid 3-1. It's not fucking. It's not killing yourself winning the Caribbean Cup.
And so that means, to put it in perspective, when we go to Dortmund 2 days before Thanksgiving, do we go there with the mentality, all right, we're through, can we take the foot off the gas, or do we go out there to make a statement? This is a team that has, 3 points? 2 points? Right? What is it? 3 points. 3 draws they've had.
Two draws, no wins.
So they think they might catch Madrid now, us beating them. Highly doubtful, because they still got to play them again, but who knows what. Maybe Apoel can pull off the upset and continue their unbeaten streak in the Bernabeu in their next match. But I really, really think that we've got to go to Dortmund and make a statement if we want to back up what we did on Wednesday.
Yeah, no easy test.
Hey, so Sam, I know we derailed you a bit. So that was your one unpopular opinion. What was number 2?
Well, we'll get to that. It's about today's game.
Are we on today's game then?
Well, no. Real quick before we go off Madrid, I just want to know from each of you, looking at the match as a whole, who was your man of the match?
Gazzaniga.
No.
No, we haven't gone there yet.
Wait, we're not there yet.
I said before.
This segment brought to you by Community Beer Company's Mosaic IPA, which I am happily consuming.
No, going back to Madrid, that match. Who was your man of the match? Go, Sammy.
Harry Winks. For the maturity and just complete overall level of comfort that he showed on a massive stage.
I think Ronaldo made more saves than their keeper. But I'm going to say Jan Vertonghen. I thought he was awesome.
That's a good shout.
Cheers.
A lot of good ones.
He was good. I think Dele took the opportunity after his tail between his legs suspension for 3 games to really go out there and just say, hey, I'm here and here's what I can do. And it's a shame he wasn't able to play today, but I thought it was a great, solid maturity. He had a smile on his face, which is nice to see, and Poch has been bigging him up. We haven't seen the best of him this season. He went out there and said, okay, Gaffer, here you go.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chairs. I mean, it was between Trips and Dele for me, but I think I could go Dele. You get a brace, you start the attack that went forward for the 3rd goal, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first Spurs player to ever score against Madrid in a competitive match.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, because when we played them in the UEFA Cup in the early 80s, I think it was 0-0 and 1-0 to them over the 2 legs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we have not scored against them until Dele had the brace. And then
he did a brace.
Yes.
I said before the match,
we're unbeaten at the Bernabeu in all-time competitive history, just so you know.
I said, well, if he's really a big-time player, this is where big-time players show up, and boy, did he. He did. I didn't necessarily think Winks was the best player on there. I just think, for me, it's just, wow, young kid, just looking so great, being an engine.
And we talk about the squad so much, right? And Matthew Wheat on Twitter is asking, even if Lamela, let's kind of start segueing into Crystal Palace a little bit and talk about the squad. Even if Lamela is physically fit when he returns, how long does it usually take a player of his type to reacclimate after missing a year. So, Chairs, and Sam, I want to direct this towards you.